I don't need this in my life. You ever said that or heard somebody say that? I've talked to teachers who were really passionate about education. They'd had a teacher change their life, so they wanted to change another student's life. So they got their degree, they got a job in a school, and it was going all right. But either because of the district or the administration or the parents or lack thereof, they said, you know what, I just don't need this in my life anymore, and they walked away. I've heard people say this about marriage. They'd seen good marriages, they'd heard good things about marriage, so they found a spouse, they got married, and things went fine for a little while, but then things turned horribly south, and the way their spouse treated them or didn't treat them, they said, you know what, I don't need this in my life, and they walked. I've met people who used to be overweight who said this, and they're on prescription drugs because of the high blood pressure and the diabetes, and they said, you know what, I just don't need this in my life anymore, so they got control of their sleep and their diet, and they're working out, and then they didn't have to deal with any of that anymore. But more than any of those things combined, I've heard people say this phrase, I don't need this in my life, about religion more than anything else. They got their church or priest or synagogue or mosque, whatever, but it's a guilt trip. They always leave feeling worse. They can never measure up. So they give up on God. They quit the faith. It's such a burden, they think it's not worth pursuing. They say, I just don't need this in my life. And they walk. Have you ever felt like religion is a burden? You walked away from it because there was a bunch of things to do, a bunch of guilt, and you didn't need it. Have you ever felt like connecting with God is a to-do list on top of the to-do lists you already have at work and at home and kids and everything else? So you walked. Or if you stayed, there was a cycle of guilt because you could never do enough. I don't know what church or priest or pastor or whatever told you that a relationship with God is something that should weigh you down, that there's a to-do list included, that you got to always do better. But they're dead wrong. They're dead wrong. They were missing a key piece. You ever do puzzles? You ever done a puzzle? For some reason, when I think of puzzles, it always makes me think of old people. It's probably because when I was a kid, I'd always do them with my grandma. If you like puzzles, I guess I am saying you're old, so whatever. But what always happened at the end of the puzzle is, there'd be a piece or two missing. And so we'd scour the house, and we'd look in the box, and we'd look on the floor, we'd look behind the curtain. Maybe even one of my siblings took the piece off somewhere else in the house, but we had to have the missing pieces so we could finish the puzzle. And if we did find it and put it in there, it completed the picture and made it look how it was supposed to look. Today, Jesus is going to give us the missing piece, but it's going to be a little bit different than what we think. Here's what he says. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father. Jesus talks a whole lot about this idea of fruit. Matthew 7, he says a good tree produces good fruit, a bad tree produces bad fruit. That's simple enough. We get that. It makes sense. If I have a fruit tree, it better make good apples or it's worthless, right? Matthew chapter 3, Jesus says, yes, every tree that does not produce good fruit will be chopped down and thrown into the fire. Again, Jesus isn't giving us some deep revelation. We know this, we understand this. My wife's favorite thing in the world is homegrown tomatoes. She loves, homegrown tomatoes more than anything else in the world. Cover it with salt, eat it when it's just right. That's heaven for her. So I want to be a good husband. So multiple years in our marriage, I have tried to grow homegrown tomatoes, which doesn't sound like it should be that difficult, right? Seed, soil, water, sun, boom, tomatoes. There you go. Unfortunately, there's some secret trick that I don't know about and I can't find on Google, because what's happened every time we try to grow homegrown tomatoes is at the end of the season, we've got a tomato plant, we just don't got any tomatoes. Or if we do, they're about this big and inedible. So we rip up the plant and we throw it away. That's what Jesus is saying here. We know this. Plants are supposed to bear fruit. And likewise, people are supposed to bear fruit as well. If you're not bearing fruit, you're not doing the thing you were created to do. Now in Scripture, fruit refers to a few different things. It can refer to being connected with God. It can refer to good works in your life. It can refer to just having strong character. So I want that fruit, right? I want peace. I want character. I want a relationship with God. I want the fruit that God's Spirit brings. Jesus says, when you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father. If fruit is all those good things, we want that. I don't hear people say, I don't want to be a person of character. I don't want to be connected to God. I don't want good things in my life. People don't say that. However, this is the problem with religion. Because Jesus has just given me something else to add to the to-do list. He's given me something else to feel guilty about. Okay, I got to try to produce good fruit. Add that to the to-do list. So I try to be patient. I try to be good. We try to have good works. It's like we're on a treadmill where we're working hard but not getting anywhere, because even if we produce some good things in our lives, we're not perfect. We mess up. Then we feel guilty. Then we just want to hop off because we say, I don't need this. We're like the teacher who quits her job, or the overweight person who decides to get healthy. Say, I'm over it. Some Christian will want to chime in and say, hey, there's grace. Yes, there is, and we're going to get there today. But if the demand is, I got to produce all this fruit and then get grace for when I inevitably mess up because my trying isn't working hard enough, that's going to be a big guilt trip. So a lot of us will still say, even if there's grace, if it's a big guilt trip before I get to grace, I don't want it. I'll look for something else. I don't need this. And if all Jesus said was verse 8, that's what we should do. We should feel guilty and have this cycle of guilt and shame because we're never going to be good enough or keep trying, or we should just walk out. Fortunately, there's a bigger context to what Jesus is teaching. Get out your pen and paper, take some notes today. If you're tired of religion, if you're burnt out on trying, if you are just over someone telling you, do this, then you'll be connected with God, Jesus is going to set you free today. I want to peel off the layers of guilt and shame and misunderstanding today so you can see what Jesus really wants from you. Here's how he starts off this section, John 15, verse 1. I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. Here's the context for this whole few sentences we'll be looking at today, is Jesus and his disciples have just been in the upper room where they celebrated the Jewish feast called Passover, where Jesus institutes the communion celebration that we're going to even celebrate later in our service today. After that, they leave that place and they're walking towards the Garden of Gethsemane. That's the place where Jesus is going to be arrested before he's put on trial and executed. As they're walking there, and we know this because you can go see it today, there are ancient vineyards as they walk by. So very likely, Jesus is looking at this ancient vine, and he says, hey guys, you know what? I'm the grapevine. He goes on, he cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do bear fruit so they'll produce even more. This is a fascinating sentence to me because it says he both cuts and he prunes. To me, cutting and pruning look the same, right? In my head, I know cutting off branches because they're dead or poisonous or whatever is different than pruning healthy branches so they can produce more fruit. But me as an untrained pruner doesn't know the difference between cutting and pruning when I see someone else doing it. I can be pretty frugal on certain things. I like to save money when I can, and I try to get creative sometimes in doing this. So it was about 4 years ago, I think. My daughter was 3 years old when I realized a way I could save our family some money. And I was really smart, so I decided I'm going to cut my daughter's hair to save our family money. And I wanted it to be a surprise to my wife. So I didn't ask her before I did this. I just took my 3-year-old daughter and put her on the bathroom sink and got my scissors out and started going to work. And I thought, this is actually pretty easy. Like, why do they even have hair cutting school? I can do this as good as anybody. In fact, I'm going to end up showing her picture at church this coming Sunday. People at Mosaic are going to pay me money to cut their kids' hair after they see how good my daughter looks. And so I stepped back. I thought it looked pretty good. I was pretty proud of it. I heard my wife doing something in the other room. I said, hey, honey, come here. She said, I can't. I'm busy. I said, no, I have something you really want to see. She says, I'll be there in a minute. I said, I cut Reagan's hair. It got real quiet in the other room real quick. And then I hear determined footsteps walking my way, and my wife comes in the bathroom. And she doesn't do what I expect, because what I expect her to do is smile real big, say how great it looks, maybe even give me a hug, maybe say, hey, we were going to spend some money on getting her haircut, but you just saved our family that money. Why don't you take that money and go out for a guys' night out at B-Dubs tonight? She didn't do those things. Instead, she bursts into tears. She says, bangs? You gave our 3-year-old bangs? I didn't know there was anything wrong with bangs, but apparently 4 years ago in the cool household on a 3-year-old, there's something wrong with bangs. And the way my wife reacted, you would have thought her entire destiny was doomed. She was never going to get a boyfriend. She was never going to marry because this picture was going to leak on social media. And teenage boys and boys in their 20s would see that she had bangs when she was 4 years old because her dad cut her hair, and she would be single and live with us forever. That's the reaction I got. I learned 2 lessons that day. One is, never cut your daughter's hair. Write that on your notes. The other is, cutting looks easy, but you better know what you're doing. Jesus says, my Father's a gardener. He does the cutting and pruning. That means he's an expert. Therefore, here's the lesson. There's one gardener, and it's not me. Now, that's a good news, bad news kind of thing. Here's the bad news. I don't get to be the gardener for other people. If we're real, that's a little disappointing, because if there's a gardener who takes care of everybody, then I don't have to. And what I really mean is I don't get to. Because there's part of me that likes going around and cutting and pruning other people, right? I'll give you a little insight into how I prepare messages. One thing I do often when I'm preparing messages is I'll try and find other preachers who've preached on that topic or that scripture. So I'll go on Google, I'll type in, for example, John 15, 1 through 8, and then add a preacher's name to see if there's an article or sermon out there that I could use to maybe get a story or get a teaching point that I could incorporate into what I'm feeding you. So I did that for this message, and I went on Google and typed in John 15, 1 through 8, and a certain preacher's name that I listen to occasionally, and there came up not one page of results, not 2 pages, not 3. I stopped at 4. I don't know how many more there were. And it wasn't articles he had written, it wasn't sermons he had preached. Instead, it was other Christians around the world somewhere who had set up websites and blogs to warn other people, do not listen to this preacher. He's a heretic. His doctrine is horrible. He's going to hell. His church is going to hell. And if you listen to him or learn from him, you're probably going to hell too. I never found anything helpful. What I did find was a lot of people who wanted to prune. These strangers who wanted to prune, or most of the time cut off other people. But Jesus is saying, there's a gardener. He's the one who does the pruning and cutting. Now, it's easy for me to point the finger at those bloggers who probably live in their mom's basement still and say, don't send me an email if you live in your mom's basement. Unless you wrote that blog, then yes, I'm talking about you. It's easy for me to point the finger at them and say, don't they have something better to do than bash other people nonstop and create special websites that exist to bash other Christians? But here's what I realized. I do the same thing. Now, I don't have a blog. Don't go look for it. I don't say it out loud even most of the time, but I'll think it in my head. I'll see somebody who I know is a Christian, and he gets drunk, and I'll think, I need to cut him off. I'll hear a woman I respect talk about her political views. I'll say, well, she loves Jesus, but that's the opposite of the political view Jesus would want us to have, so I need to prune her. I'll be around somebody I like, but then hear them gossiping. I'm like, I need to cut that off. I want to be a gardener. I want to go to work, cutting, pruning. I'll take care of it right now. But what Jesus is teaching me is, Carl, you're as good at pruning people spiritually as you are at cutting 3-year-old girls' hair. Jesus says there's one gardener, and it's not me, and it's not you. I don't close my eyes and ignore what's going on. What I'm talking about here is the tendency a lot of Christians have to go on a witch hunt to eradicate all evil in other people. That's not our job. Since there's one gardener who's going to take care of me, I don't have to be my own gardener either. See, the bad news is I don't get to meddle in other people's business. The good news is I don't have to muster it up in myself either, because God's going to take care of me. That comforts me. If things in my life aren't how I want, God's going to take care of me. If my character keeps failing, God's my gardener. He's going to take care of me. If I question if I'm still connected to God, He's my gardener. He's going to take care of me. So all this means I can't waste my time wishing other people were more like me. I can't waste my time worrying about when God's going to prune some other people or cut them off. Instead, it makes it personal, and this leads to freedom. See, if we have to do it all by ourselves, then I probably should meddle in other people's business, because maybe I could help them. If we have to do it all by ourselves, then I should get really discouraged when my life doesn't look how I want it to look, because it's on me. But because God's the gardener, I don't have to worry about me or others. God's going to take care of it. That's good news. And here's the tough thing. He says He's going to prune. Verse 2. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and He prunes the branches that do bear fruit so they'll produce even more. I kind of studied just a little bit tree pruning in preparation for this, and I found out that trees are pruned for 2 reasons. One is to strengthen healthy branches. And so they remove the unproductive parts of the tree, and this makes sense because more nutrients get to the healthy parts of the tree to make them even healthier. The other reason they prune is to allow more air and sunlight to reach parts of the tree that would otherwise be inaccessible. And the center of the tree has to be healthy, but that's the part that's most vulnerable to disease, so they have to prune to let light reach that. And that's a great illustration for us. Jesus wants to get rid of some stuff in your life to focus on the best. Here's what I want you to catch. If you want to bear fruit, you're going to be pruned. It's going to hurt. There will be pain. He's going to prune us. That's a good thing. He's making us into something better, but there will be pain. It's not uncommon. If you've been here a while, you've heard me talk about pain a lot. And what I'll typically say is something like this. Jesus, whatever pain you're in, Jesus wants to get you through that pain. He's probably not going to remove you from the pain. He's probably not going to remove the pain from you, but he's going to give you strength. He's going to give you grace. He's going to give you perseverance to get through that thing that's causing you pain right now. Today, it's a little different because Jesus is telling us that whatever pain we're going through could be caused by God himself. Now, I would never definitively say about a particular circumstance, oh yeah, God is 100% for sure the one causing this pain. What I'm saying is, based on the scripture, we know God is a source of pain. Not because God wants you to be in pain, not because he enjoys hurting you, but because he has something better planned for you. Jim Collins wrote what is probably the best-selling business book in my lifetime called Good to Great. He talks about all these studies he did to show what businesses do to become great businesses when they were just good businesses. He says good is the enemy of great. We need to take every organization from good to great. Jesus wants to prune what's good in your life so that what is great can flourish. When you picture pruning, the gardener isn't cutting off branches because they're poisonous. They're just not the best. There are things in your life that need to go away. And it's not that that thing or that relationship or that hobby's evil. It's that God wants to bring about something better. So I'm going to give you some examples. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to start arguing with me in your head. Because you're going to say, Carl, that thing in my life is not evil. Like there's nothing wrong with that thing inherently. And you're going to be right. I'm just suggesting maybe in your life, Jesus wants to prune these things or things like them so he can do something better. Maybe Jesus wants you to get off social media because you waste so much time checking and updating statuses that if you spent half the time that you do on apps actually sitting across from a real person in a coffee shop around a table saying, hey, how are you doing really? Your impact on other people would increase exponentially. Maybe Jesus wants to prune your eating habits because you fluctuate from starving yourself and gorging yourself, or you just stuff yourself with junk nonstop. He wants your body to be a tool to accomplish great things. Maybe Jesus wants you to stop spending hours each week mindlessly watching TV and movies. And you say, it's a way to relax. But you're so caught up in the drama of your favorite characters, you're missing the stories of real people around you. Maybe there's a friendship you need to take a step back from. And you've rationalized, hey, this person needs a positive influence in your life. And you're right, but the problem is, if you're really honest, they're the one influencing you and dragging you down. You're not influencing them and pulling them up. See, when a gardener prunes, it's not like the branches he takes off are poisonous. He takes off branches that are just good for the sake of branches that can be great. Paul wrote about fruit in Galatians 5. Here's what he said. But the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against these things. Jesus probably wants to reach in your life right now and prune some things that are inaccessible. He wants to bring light to the center of you so you can be healthy. One of the fruits is patience. To give you patience, he probably has to deal with your anger issue. Another fruit's kindness. In order to give you kindness, he probably has to reach in and deal with that bitterness and the root cause of it, and you don't want to deal with that because that goes into the past and it's painful to think about, let alone deal with. But Jesus says, I have something better for you. Another fruit's love. Jesus wants you to be a loving person, but in order to do that, he's going to have to prune that sarcasm out that you use to let everybody think you're funny, but you're really keeping people at arm's length. Jesus wants you to be faithful. Faithful as a spouse, faithful as a friend. Therefore, he's going to have to cut out the empty promises you make but don't follow through on. It's pruning. It's going to hurt, but he's got something better for you. In order to be healthy, there will be pain. I did learn this week that when you experience physical pain, what happens physiologically is the nociceptive pain receptors in your body send a signal to the thalamus in your cerebral cortex. And that lets your entire body know, that hurts, avoid that, don't let that happen again, don't go there. That's how we survive, because our body tells us to avoid that kind of pain. Our brain is conditioned to minimize effort and avoid pain. But we need pruning, because on the other side of pain is a better life. About a year ago, a bunch of my friends started working out a lot. They were lifting weights all the time, and they said, hey, Carl, why don't you start lifting weights with us? This will be fun. We know you're a runner, but why don't you add this to your workout routine? So I did. I joined their gym and started working out with them, and it was a lot of fun. I was working out several days a week, hitting it decently hard, gained a few pounds of muscle, was enjoying it. But back in the fall, after working out for, 6 or 8 months, I just stopped. And not like kind of weaned myself off, but just like one day didn't go back. So I had the genius idea 2 days ago on Friday of going and working out. And that was a fine idea. The problem was, if you're just getting back into working out or getting into working out for the first time, you probably shouldn't go as hard as you normally do when you're in really good shape. When I just got out my old workout on my phone and said, I'm just gonna do the full thing. So I worked out multiple muscle groups, did the full sets and everything. I am so sore today. It is unbelievable. If you come up and touch me on my chest, I will crumble in the lobby to pain on my feet because I will be in so much pain. So don't do that. If you do, I will get up and drop kick you in your face after I get back up. But what that soreness tells me is I'm actually getting healthy, because I know the microfibers have torn, it's building more muscle back, and I'm gonna be healthier at the end of the day. It'd be silly for me to say, you know what, that caused pain, so I shouldn't go back to the gym. You're not gonna like pruning, because it's gonna hurt. But in order to be healthy, there's gonna be pain. So pain doesn't mean God doesn't love you. It doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's doing. It doesn't mean he's not in control. It very likely means he's doing a great work in your life, that you have a better future ahead of you, that you're gonna be someone next year that you're not today, but it takes pain to get there, because you're not who you're supposed to be just yet, so you need pruning. So when pain comes, something in you, whether it's your brain or your soul, is gonna say, I want to avoid this. Instead, we need to choose to focus on the fact there is a better future ahead, because God's my gardener. Now, let me make this practical with some examples. When you get real about past experiences that wounded you, that hurts. But it's pruning, because there's a better future where you don't have shame. When you talk about past disappointments that are keeping a relationship at surface level, that's uncomfortable, but it's pruning, because there's a better future where you say, I care about this relationship, let's go to a deeper level of trust. When you deal with that stuff you've been stuffing, the stress at work, the guilt you've been carrying around from your old religious experience, pursuing the ex-girlfriend online, the gambling addiction, when you deal with that, that's not fun, but it's pruning, because there's a better future when you admit you need help and someone carries the load with you. When you begin to trust God with the most important thing in your life, your money, by starting to give away 10% of it, that throws you off kilter, but it's pruning, because there's a better future where God provides you instead of you trying to provide for yourself. It sounds cliche, but it's true. God doesn't see you as you are. He sees what you can become. He sees you as healthy and vibrant and flourishing and bearing much fruit. So he's going to cut, he's going to trim, he's going to prune, because he wants something better for you. If you're going through pain right now, be comforted. There is a better future on the other side of it. I know that doesn't take the pain away. I know it doesn't make you feel better, but you can know and trust that you're in the hands of the one who holds your future. He loves you. He hasn't let go of you. He's not gonna let go of you. He cares about you. Remember, the reason this series is called Promises is because Jesus makes these promises before he gets arrested and executed. He was walking towards the biggest pain he'd ever experienced. But after the pain of death came his resurrection. And after the pain of your pruning is the resurrection of your soul. Because Jesus rose from the dead, we can believe that our pain has a purpose. So we're going to celebrate communion when I'm done. Our band will come back up here. A tray will be passed down your row. It'll have a stack of 2 cups on it. We want you to take a stack. It'll have a cracker and juice representing the body and blood of Christ. You eat and drink that anytime while our band plays. So what's the key today? There's a gardener. It's not me, it's not you. He's gonna prune, that's gonna hurt. What's the takeaway? Like, what's the application? What do I gotta do this week, right? That's what we need to know. Here's the key, verse 4. Remain in me, and I'll remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, you're the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. That word remain can also be translated abide. If you're a fan of The Big Lebowski, you remember the dude abides, right? And that word, remain, abide, Jesus says 5 times here, remain in me, abide with God. Here's what that word abide means. It has a whole lot to it. It means to dwell, to live, to make your home, to endure, to stay, to stand with. And we tend to think God blesses us and gives us strength when we produce. We want to make it dependent on what we do. This mentality is one we're conditioned to. At work, you produce or you lose your job. On the team, you hustle or you're on the bench. At school, you better make the grade or you flunk out. Most everything in our lives is based on our producing. So we work at it, hoping we produce enough. But Jesus says, I just need to abide. And I don't like that because I want to be in control. I want to know what I need to do, what boxes to check off. But Jesus says, just abide. I even want to give you, as a preacher today, like some spiritual disciplines to go practice. Like, go do these 10 things, and then you will abide. Add this to your checklist. Here's your to-do list. Go do it this week, and then you're abiding. But Jesus says, just abide. So let me ask again. Have you ever felt like religion's a burden? You walked away from it because it was a bunch of things to do and a bunch of guilt, and you didn't need it? Have you ever felt like connecting with God is a to-do list on top of the to-do list you already have at work or school or family and everything else? Jesus says, just abide. Now, let me clarify one thing. As Christians, we do have a burden. We have a burden to bring God's lost children home. We have a burden to bring justice to the suffering. Scripture teaches, Luke 19, that Jesus wept over Jerusalem. The brokenness of the city was a burden to him. We do have a burden for people, but if you follow Jesus, connecting to God is never a burden. It's never a burden because Jesus says, just abide. Just abide. Are you doing anything when you abide? Nope, not really. The good news of the gospel is you cannot try hard enough. You can never be good enough on your own to connect back to God. You don't have to. We try to get salvation. God, I'm going to do this, do that, not do that, then I'll be good enough. No, you will never be good enough. Jesus died in your place because you can't be good enough, but he's good enough for you. Therefore, you don't try to have a relationship with God. You just abide. There's no to-do list that makes you good enough to connect with God. You just abide. This is why Jesus can say in Matthew 11, come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. It's not, do these things. It's just abide. It's not, here's your to-do list. It's just abide. It's not worry about your standing with God. It's just abide. And I don't know if this next thing I'm going to say is true. It's just a guess. But I wonder if Jesus said this as a reminder to himself. When the soldiers come to arrest me, abide. When one of my inner circle betrays me for a handful of money, abide. When I see my closest friend say he doesn't even know who I am when I need him most in my entire life, abide. When they mock me, abide. When they press thorns onto my forehead, abide. When they pierce my hands and ankles and side with nails and a spear, abide. When I die, abide. Because I think that's what Jesus is saying to you. You're trying. He says, just abide. You're trying to be more patient. Abide. You're trying to deal with the anger issue. Abide. You're trying to be more pure and conquer an addiction and cope with your parents' divorce. Abide. You're trying to make more money and fix your spouse and have a kid. Abide. Just abide. Just remain in Jesus. I like the way the Message paraphrases that scripture in Matthew. Here's what it says. Are you tired? Worn out? Burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch how I do it. I love this next phrase. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Isn't that what you've been looking for your whole life? Don't you want to live freely and lightly? This is why I follow Jesus, right here. Because I want the unforced rhythms of grace. There's a gardener, and it's not you, and it's not me. And he's going to prune, not hurt, but it's because he sees something better for you. And so all you got to do is abide. If you want to be connected with God, you abide. If you want to live freely and lightly, abide. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Let's pray. God, I know there's some people who came in here today ready to give up on you because it's been about guilt, and it's a cycle of shame, and it's a to-do list, and they're over it. God, help them realize they're free. God, there's other people here who weren't going to walk away, but are in this cycle of guilt because they know they just keep messing up. And it's spiritual discipline stuff, and it's character issues, and it's just the good works that aren't happening in your life that they know they should do more of. And it's so frustrating. They know there's grace, but why do they feel so guilty all the time? God, help them just abide. God, we want to live freely and lightly. We want to learn the unforced rhythms of grace because we are tired. We are worn out. We have been burned out on religion. So God, thank you that we can come to you and recover our life. We love you, Jesus. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.